First we're going to just go back and talk about everything that we discussed last week. And so Caitlin and Adam are going to come up and share each of our plans that we came up with. And then after that, we're going to have like a short little brainstorming session and possibly play a short game. Okay. Yeah. And then Mark's going to come back up here and talk about the rest of this stuff. But just pay attention to the short briefing of what we went over, because we're going to kind of determine whether, like, what we're going to keep and what we're not going to keep and what we're going to continue to develop on and stuff.
So, where we were last week, the ambassador program. What we're gonna, this is the idea where we have third-party people come in, either from particular businesses or officials that have been part of the school board and have taught for many years and have a lot of experience in the public school system. They're going to come in, they observe, analyze, and but first of all, they come in and observe the teachers and observe their methods, and kind of observe the school as a whole. They're going to analyze what they see, and then they're going to come up with new plans to improve the school system and the teaching methods that are being implemented there. So, I mean, they're going to evaluate performance for the schools, is what they have, and yeah, you guys can read. And like I said, the board of directors will be the representatives. Okay.
Adam, do you have anything else to add to that part?
I think you misused the term
I thought we
ethnocentrism.
both did the same thing.
That was the one where we sort of it wasn't exactly the same, but we sort of overlapped.
Ah. This is ours, because, yeah, we're group 2, they're group 1. Okay. Well, this one's yours still. Or Adam, do you want to do this one?
Why don't you guys let Adam
Yeah.
talk about it?
Sure. Let me just read over this, make sure it's on the same thing. Okay. So a big facet of development would be in teacher development, like that being professional development. So right now, I'm sure in various school districts, various areas that can be legislated upon. I know that certain schools have like in-service days where they have to spend it doing various things. Of course, it's up to those different schools to think about how they want to spend those days. One of our suggestions was chill time, and this is related to whether or not a student is doing well, relates to how much autonomy they get over their own free time, and it also increases student-teacher interaction, which is shown to bring up grades, any sort of student authority direct interaction.
Basically, one thing I wanted to add to that is just basically what kind of a goal of that is just to kind of get teachers to connect. We're just trying to get a connection, stronger connection between teachers and students. Because according to the interview that I had with the Shelby County school teacher that I had, that's one area where public schools are very lacking. Is there's this disconnect between teachers and students, where if they were connecting, she feels they were most likely be a much higher level of performance. And then also more in-service days to develop teachers' professional skills. And this means not having the same old thing repeated over and over, but having interactive, efficient, effective in-service days that are really getting teachers to evaluate their methods and other teachers' methods and come up with solutions to current problems and things that are holding the teachers back. Let's see, which one is this?
As an addendum on that, the first slide showed focus on taking what's working in other schools and applying it to schools who are struggling, and the teacher development, inter-district learning opportunities, that would be focused on that sort of thing, but on a micro sort of scale. It would be a single teacher learning from another individual teacher what works best in the classroom and what doesn't work. Right?
Yeah, and then just offering teachers bonuses and giving them incentives for performing better, for connecting with their students, demonstrating excellence and showing that they're coming up with better methods. engaging their students and making them want to learn and creating a better learning environment. And then also, kind of back to our funding roots of this project, the tax credits for parents, if your child submits a report card and their child's exceeding, and also insurance deductions if your child brings home an excellent report card. And we feel like this will be a way to get parents involved. They're getting tax and insurance credits, and they're going to want to engage their students. They're going to want to make sure they're getting good, because I mean, who doesn't want to save money? And so if their child can help them save money and be bettering their education at the same time, who wouldn't want that? And like we said before, third-party evaluation of schools, getting school board members and retired teachers to come in, evaluate, analyze, plan.
Yeah, we sort of focused on that like in a really general way, but just covering, like, there are so many different ways that the professional development of teachers can take place that I think that you would just want that to be a giant part of the plan that you're going to develop, and then lay out some suggestions. Of course, you can't be too specific or else it's constricted. But we have a lot of suggestions. I think that's generally the substance of these slides.
Yeah, and another idea with that was getting teachers that have been showing excellent performance in their classrooms and have been demonstrating that they can engage their students and get them to be involved in the learning process. Getting those teachers to go around the state, go around the county, go around the country even, and give seminars on what they've been doing, their methods, and how it's helped and how it's been changing their students' education.
I actually was like part of a school that had this like chill time thing. So I mean, I know I've already emailed a few of my teachers back to find out what they do in service days, so we can hopefully like implement that amongst like Tennessee schools. So I know Mark put up resources on interview questions and stuff for teachers. So if you guys have resources to any type of teacher who you think is really doing a good job in investing time into the kids at school, or just like investing time into furthering education and all that stuff, like contact them as fast as possible so we can like implement anything they have to say in our problem solving plan, because I know I'm hoping to get back information from both of my teachers, because I mean they made a difference in like countless kids' lives at my school and stuff. So the more information we can have, the better, so that we have like a really well-rounded solution packet and stuff. Also, something really good about these in-service days is just it's a good way to better education without having a huge strain on cost, because I mean Tennessee education doesn't really have a bunch of like extra money lying around, and we're going to be saving money. I think it's like back on one of these slides with like the buses and all the kind of stuff that we won't have to be providing for students to be there, like the food, all that stuff. So it's a good, I think it's something that we should further. Do you want to talk about it?
Further. We talked about that one, didn't we?
I don't know if I don't think we went over it, but one of our other ideas was having kind of a peer mentor program for students. And so it would be a credit hour for students to kind of be a TA in a class that they've succeeded in. So that way it's not just a teacher investing in the children, it's also a peer, and like maybe having that better connection. So it's not just one person investing their full time into you, it's kind of like a secondary accountability partner and someone that you can connect with like on a closer level, I guess. And it's a good way, for students like put stuff on their resume when they're like applying for colleges and stuff. They can say that they, help further a kid's education and stuff. So it's not only like beneficial to like the student who's going to be getting more out of their education, but it's also a benefit for the kid.
It also helps create a lot of leadership too, because if you have children from a classroom that are basically like reviewing the information and like kind of communicating, that's what you do in like a team project anyway. So.
And I think our main focus is really like instilling accountability in our education system, because right now there's one of our huge issues was that parents aren't investing in their children, and if the student doesn't feel like they need to succeed or they need to do well, then like there's really no incentive to do well. And so the more people that can hold you accountable for doing your work and actually succeeding education wise, I think the better. And this is like a cheap way to do it.
I mean, the idea of having this TA kind of thing, this peer mentor program, is hopefully to stray away from, I mean, I can speak on behalf of my high school where we would have a TA come in and he would sit on his computer and just do whatever he wanted the whole class because teachers wouldn't need a TA. But I mean, if in public schools getting a TA and actually having them come in and actually helping students would be the idea of this, getting them to actually go, find, pick out students, find the students, maybe having some social work, getting them to go around and talk to the students, figure out what problems people are having, what people are struggling with, and having the student having been through this class, hopefully, be able to provide a lot of insight and help to
I
the other
think
students.
Also, like with this program, we have to keep the chill time he mentioned before and stuff because otherwise there's really no incentive, for the peer mentor to like really get involved in a student's life because it's hard to, really give time to every student if they're not allotted time for you to do so, if that makes sense. And also the more people that you can have in the classroom for the students who don't get to go on their chill time because they're doing poorly in a class, the better.
Good question or two. Everybody else feel free to ask questions if you got them. Can we go back to the ambassador program?
This one?
Yeah. Which group is that? And which one of you was that?
Yeah, mine's
Right.
Yeah.
Wasn't it kind of, didn't both groups come up with something similar?
Third party analysis.
Third-party
yeah.
evaluation system,
Evaluation.
so this kind of serves as like an evaluation system as well as, I don't know, like a furthering education system as well, so.
I think the sole purpose of like our ambassador program was that we have people who know what they're doing and are coming in to the education system and making sure these things that we're doing right are actually implemented in schools. And I know that we said like the further these programs go, the more data we'll have to make, like a solidified plan that like each school needs to check off and make sure that they're doing. And like we really want someone to go in and observe the schools who are doing things right for right now.
Let's talk about the ambassadors. What are the other teachers? Yeah, that's where I'm a little bit confused. Where are the ambassadors coming from?
People selected for their merit from the community. Is
Well, we kind of determined that if we pick from like the Board of Education, somebody that is aware of like the situation of education in Tennessee, so that whenever, there would have to be some sort of like evaluation, like plan set up, but the people that are on like the Board of Education are gonna be a lot more aware of what's going on and then what's working in schools and then how to implement it into their schools. Because if you get just people from the community or like teachers, that would be like the next step. But if you got parents, they may or may not be fully aware of the situation. Therefore, it would kind of be like a little, they might not be as qualified to be able to evaluate a school.
Also, when you're talking about like teachers, we kind of wanted to keep away from teachers in the sense that like if a teacher goes in and observes a school that's really, really good and like they'll want to stay there. I mean, they're more prone to, I don't know, not being as, you could get those teachers that are really gung-ho and like actually observe something and they're like, wow, I really want to implement this somewhere and make this happen, like, and that's awesome, but that's not always necessarily the case. They could be like, oh, well, these teachers are getting paid so much more and it's so much easier to teach because they have students who, know how to learn and all that kind of stuff because they're already in areas that are, doing education properly. And, I mean,
So picking like the administrative, like they would like a lot of, there's lost my thought.
And to, like,
it was straight away from there.
in our idea, we talked about like people with a strong, like, resume and any sort of public administration, and someone that just has a really good understanding of administrating and how things should operate. Come in, let us see your books, let us see what the classroom's like, let us see what the whole culture of the school is, and then let us make recommendations and kind of rate it so that the state knows more qualitatively and holistically what the school looks like performance-wise, because the standardized tests only give you like a brief glimpse. So it'd be a more whole package of here's what the school's actually doing.
And we're afraid also that just by doing, like, we still want standardized testing so that we can, or, I mean, what did we say, like, assessments before classes so that the teachers know where students are right at the beginning so they can kind of format how they're going to teach each course based on how their, like, where their students are academically. But at the same time, we want, you know, something else that's keeping them in check, which we feel like this program will do.
And that helps with like helping the teacher become more flexible to the needs of the students, because I mean every class that you get is going to be different. They're going to be on different learning levels, and you know if they already understand a concept a little bit more, I don't know, students might struggle more in one subject than another, so they have to constantly be analyzing like the level of their students and how to teach it properly. So, and it's something that should be done all throughout the school year, not just at the beginning and say, okay, here's our timeline, let's stick to it. I think that would help them be more flexible with their curriculums.
Any other questions?
Okay, I've got another question.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually kind of nice for me to sit back and look at the story. Let's talk about the in-service days. Yeah. For you specifically, Ryan, because you did the interview. When I read the interview with Katie, didn't Katie say that in-service days were like the biggest waste of time?
She did. That's why we're saying we want to. Part of our solution would be changing the dynamic of them, kind of evolving them to be more adaptive to what's actually going on in the school. Because what she said, let me, if I can bring it up actually real quick. Is there another?
Yeah.
Ryan brought up in our group an idea of having in-service days being more like what you would see in the private sector, like at a conference, where you're exchanging really innovative ideas and exciting ideas and trying to kind of engage people.
I think they need to be really interactive. Like, I think it would be good if when we're putting up a plan that
Teacher reviews.
there's like step-by-step like plans that they actually have to follow. You know what I mean?
It's the second one, right?
Oh.
Struggle bus.
And then the second one on the list. There you go.
Something that I overheard once from a high school teacher when I was in high school was like, oh, we went to that teacher development thing. They just wanted to toss the ball around and tell us about, you know, our feelings or about teaching or such and such. And long story short, they felt it was a waste of time and left early. So yeah, I think the whole idea of just
That's what my high school mission.
maybe taking them out of the building or something like that. Or just doing
Exactly.
something
It
more
needs to be an
engaging.
engaging thing instead of a repetitive thing that they hear year after year after year. It's something that, you know, teachers are coming up and saying, hey, you know, I did this last year and it really worked for me. You know, I tried this, you know, certain game with my students and it really got them up and active and engaged in what we were in the subject matter. And, you know, it's almost like they forgot they were learning and, you know, they were actually, you know, up and about. So I think that's what we need to work at, is getting in-service days to be productive, adaptive, efficient, and interactive. I think that'll kind of get teachers to, you know, to engage. It'll get them to listen to each other. It'll get them to say, you know, I mean, like I just said, you know, it'll get them to be like, you know, this has been working for me, or, you know, I tried this last semester and it didn't work so well. You know, the students didn't really like it. Instead of just going around saying, you know, what do you like about teaching? I mean, biased, you know, I've never been in service as a teacher or anything. But I mean, here's this whole list of stuff. I mean, when I asked her what she thought could be improved, she just went on and on. I mean, this is probably only about 3/4 of what she actually said. Yeah, same videos. I know there's one part on here where she talks about the evaluations are crap because they're once a month, they're mandated by the state, and they can end up having nothing to do with what's actually going on in the classroom. So you could be being evaluated on something completely irrelevant.
So should we all be, like if we know teachers and everything, like should we still continue to send emails for me, I emailed the principal of Cliville High School, so I'm waiting on a response from that.
Fletch Sutherland or the new one?
The new one, because I was on a mission trip with them like way long ago. Yes, he has to respond to me. And so would it be better to just email teachers within Tennessee, or like could we go outside if we know anybody outside, or focus on any
Interviewing teachers everywhere. I mean, all of mine are from Michigan. Clearly, I do not know any high school or elementary school teachers here. And I mean, I feel like the more data we can have from more places, the better, because, I mean,
yeah.
clearly we're not trying to continue the same education format that we have in Tennessee right now, because it's not working.
And we mentioned some sort of, who is it that mentioned the evaluation system that they have in Florida? Because I know, I don't know personally, but I can get in contact with a teacher that is like that.
I don't know something about it.
So
About the Jeb Bush evaluation system in Florida.
So I can also ask about that whenever I email that person, if that would be advantageous.
Is that a voucher thing?
Huh?
Is that?
It's the A through F system.
Oh, yes,
It's like where they shut down.
2 F's in a row.
Oh,
then you-
yeah, that's right. I remember you talking about that too.
So it's kind of like cutthroat, but it works in a way.
Do you think something
I don't-
like that would ever work in Tennessee?
I don't know if we should implement that right away, but I think it would work.
I think, yeah, I think it's something that could be slowly implemented, could be tried out. It lacks grace a little bit.
Yeah, let's keep some of this for the brainstorming time.
Yeah,
We can move on. Alright, does anybody else have any questions about what they're talking about?
I do.
Cool, keep going.
This is kind of like a different question, like not really related to any of this stuff, but
I like this though, so that's good.
what?
I liked this though.
Yeah. Okay, the inner city Memphis schools affect like our rankings and everything with like for the entire state. So should we be like developing anything that kind of targets them to be able to like pull them up because they're pulling their standard down?
I think that what you would be then doing would be addressing a temporary element instead of improving the system as a whole, just to achieve a higher ranking.
Okay. Should there be an initiative in the program to be able to?
I think like a seed of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think definitely when you attack it like that, it becomes like sort of like a band-aid sort of thing.
Okay.
The Memphis City School System no longer exists as of like a month ago.
Yeah,
Do
that's
what?
true. But there should be something they merged with county.
Yeah,
But there should be something focused on like helping like redistribution of funds towards schools that are like incredibly poor.
Yeah.
So I
Because
think that-
if their system is so different from the rest of Tennessee, then.
It's not. The system is not. The performance is.
Okay, so should there be a performance-based solution?
I think if we're implementing like all these programs like throughout all of Tennessee, it will not only like better that Memphis City, you know, test scoring and like their education, but it'll, you know, help Tennessee completely as a whole. So not only will Memphis be moving up in ranking, but like all of Tennessee will be at the exact same time, because I mean, if you look at like economic graphs, you know what I'm talking about, like, okay, you know, with GDP per capita and stuff, like US, like it's really hard for us to grow like really, really fast because we're already at such a high rate. And like China, it's easy because, you know, they had absolutely nothing. So like, but when we have new innovation and new ideas and like all that kind of stuff, it's easy for both of them to both, you know, move high and fast, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how great that metaphor was, but like,
Yeah, no, it was
I was trying to do graphs with my arms, it didn't really work, but you got what I mean.
Back here.
There's markers over there.
I think we got it.
I mean, yeah, we don't need it. We don't need it.
Rising tides, you know.
I mean, with new ideas and innovation, like, good schools get better and bad schools also.
Yeah, I think ideally we should come out with something that is like in the way that the Constitution, like a living document, in the way that it's like can be applied, should be able to be applied by any school and reach a favorable outcome.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't have to be like
Solely focus on one issue.
right.
It can address all of them.
So yeah, I think that should definitely be part of our goal.
I feel like the thing is with Memphis, there's just so many more things that they're going to have to address. Like with the schools that are already doing really well, they'll see our problem packet and they'll be like, okay, well, we're already doing this, this, and this good, but here's some new ideas that we need to implement in our schools. Whereas Memphis will be like, crap, we're not doing any of this, so let's do it all.
So, little off subject, but I like, Meg, what you said about having less standardized evaluations and more qualitative evaluations. I think that's definitely something to consider.
I think like we're always gonna have standardized tests as a function of
Right.
federal requirements, you know, and there's not much we can do about it. But within the state, like we can kind of say, yeah, these are important, but let's look at other things too.
Definitely.
Let's save the rest of the discussion for the brainstorm. Okay, so who was here last week? Yeah. Who understood this idea last week? Okay, that's what I thought may have happened.
Wait, when do you go over it after I left?
Maybe, yes.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are not here, and those of you who did not understand it, since we went over it in about 2 minutes, it's a whole nother ballgame. The idea is to entice private entities to insert capital into schools. So I've tried to lay it out as simply as I could. So what the end goal is a competitive market for teaching techniques. And what happens is there's a program, you buy into the program. When you buy into the program, your private corporation gets attached to a school. Go to the next slide. The corporation is access to advertising to school-age children. Who went to a Shelby County school at some point in your life? Adam, what computer did you use? What kind of computer?
This
Was it a Mac or a PC?
3rd grade. I'm gonna go ahead and say it was a Mac.
You went, yeah. You went to a Mac. You went to Shelby County School.
When Shelby County, it was mostly Mac.
Yeah. Do you know why? Because Apple sold them those computers for like $100 a piece. It's advertising through funding. This would essentially replicate that. So you can advertise, it gives them a seat on the board of directors, and it gives them the ability to research.
So are we appealing to like companies that can put resources in school, like textbooks and stuff, or are we appealing to like any company?
Money. Money. Anyone with money. Anyone with money. As we go in, you'll see how this can apply to everybody. So you buy in, that's a cost to get in. The corporations are then reevaluated every single year, only keeping a percentage of them and creating a competitive environment where you have to be in the top performing or top advancing amount of schools. While in the schools, they have a seat on the board of directors, so they can affect teaching techniques as much as the system will allow it. Go to the next slide. So, what businesses get is they get an opportunity to advertise to the youngins. They also get an opportunity to participate in a secondary market research collection. If you have an opportunity like constantly advertising to thousands of students who then go talk to their parents all the time and then grow up into people who, like, I went to Shelby County schools and I own a Mac now, I understand how it works. Schools will want to stay in that system. So the schools become competitive with one another, and my prediction is the creation of a secondary market as long as we allow it. In other words, while they're in the schools, they can research what techniques work the best and then sell them to other corporations to implement at their own schools. That way they can make their own money and they can advertise just for buying into the program. Go to the next slide. What schools students get, they get more money. The program takes all, 90–95% cut out overhead, and you give that money to the school that the corporation is involved with. You also have a free market solution to providing a third-party evaluation. It's just done by performance-based. You also have a zero bias in the system. You don't have teachers doing it. You don't have school board members doing it. You don't have anything like that. You have someone from the outside free market doing evaluations through success. Yeah.
Okay. So do you plan on taking this money and using it to like implement some of the plans that we had before, or just like giving them money? Because I mean, I'm a huge advocate for never just like throwing money at a problem, because in the long run that does absolutely nothing. But I just like, I don't
Yeah, absolutely. I will be completely honest. I am on the same page as you. As I don't feel like that just throwing money at a problem is a good idea, but I haven't fully thought through what the contingencies on the money would be. There would have to be some sort of contingency with where the money would go, but
Probably more so of a don't spend it on this instead of a spend it on this, this,
Yeah.
and this.
exactly. Yeah. I had not intended this to be a linked-in option with the other ones. It could be, but this was just meant to be a whole other individual option.
Also, sorry, were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. What is the appeal to companies to like actually go and research like evaluation techniques or like the techniques used by a school? Because I mean, if you had Apple go and just if they just want to place their products in it and they don't care about the actual like education of the children, like who's to ensure that they have like education in their interests?
Are you implying that they only invest in schools that are successful? Is that what you said earlier?
No, they would not only be investing in schools that were successful.
Okay, so
They would be placed by this program. They don't get to pick the school.
then
Oh, okay.
why would they want to invest if they're not going to, like if they're getting like a crappy school that doesn't have any good plans like implemented? You know what I mean?
Well, that's why they have the school board seat, so that they can implement change within the school themselves.
What if they don't want to? What if they just
Yeah, what if
I
they
just
can't?
want advertising?
Then they get advertising for a year and they get kicked out of the reevaluation period at the end of the year.
Okay, so perhaps like if it was like incorporated into them being ambassadors, like being able to serve as an ambassador and then kind of follow what we have with that. If we
Or
were talking about it like incorporating it with other.
You're overestimating the goodwill of corporations.
or could we
Well, see, I
provide
don't
them
think
with
the corporations want anything other than make money.
Yeah.
You get free advertising. Well, you don't get free advertising. You get advertising, and you get the only way that they continue to make more money is to find a method that works.
And plus, they're gonna be getting a lot of data from
Yeah.
their research for it being this environment.
Yep. And what I see, and maybe I've missed something, but the way I see it is the worst possible scenario is that you have a giant data collection of teaching techniques that work and don't work. You have more money in schools, and you have a higher private interest in schools.
But how do you get the collection of data on things that work and don't work if you don't have any plans formed? Like who's forming the plans? Like the corporations? Like what if they come in and don't care? Like what if you continually just have people who are just buying into the advertising and really not going to plan any, education?
Let me throw in a hypothetical on my answer is. Like say you have someone, y'all know like Pearson, like people, these big names that own
Yeah.
all these educational sort of things. I bet you they spend 10 million on like advertising and such, or just market research. Say you took an actual person, paid them maybe even $100,000 and got the same amount of random market research by placing them in an actual like large school, then you're saving 90% of your advertising costs, your market research costs. But I think that would be a way that you could get something out of that. Like take the third party idea and mesh it with this, but the third party is something that like is the rep of the school who's coming in there to extract the data.
Yeah, so like would we
The corporations aren't gonna care, like, even if the corporation doesn't care if the school improves or not, they just want the advertisement. I know you say, throwing money at a problem doesn't always work, but to be completely honest, sometimes that would work. I mean, considering how poor some schools are, I mean, the money that they get could actually dramatically help. So just for the fact of the matter is, just by receiving that money, they can get better stuff.
But like
It
just
isn't-
based on the research we've done,
Yeah.
that it's saying that that's saying
Yeah.
that's the exact opposite of what we've researched this entire time.
We have actual data that says that money does improve test scores.
But I don't think it would just be like Pepsi in the classroom, but I think it would be people who will stand to benefit from this information.
And I don't think that you don't actually need corporations that care about the students performing. You've created a system in which the only way that they continue to have access to advertising on this direct of a level is if they perform.
But what if they get paired with a school that they're just like, well, we don't give a crap about them. Like, you know what I mean? Because you continue to use a Mac. You're an extremely smart person. I mean, that's great for Mac because the computer wound up in your hands. Well, what if the computer wound up in the kid who's getting a 1.9 at UT because he doesn't give a crap and got a Hope scholarship? You know what I mean? what's the incentive there if we're placing them randomly into a school? You know what I mean? Like, I personally, like, if I was a big corporation, I wouldn't really want to continue to put my advertising in a school that's producing basically no successful people. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it doesn't all have to be like products like Mac. I mean, like, it doesn't matter how successful you are, you drink Coke.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how successful you are, you eat Sun Chips. I mean,
Yeah, they want to create brand loyalty so that you stay, you drink Coke when you're 3, you want to drink Coke the rest of your life. That's all they're trying to get. It's not necessarily a successful Coke drinker, like he's saying. Like, they don't care. Money's money.
But are we gonna be able to use like
this
products?
as like indoctrination?
that would be the possible objection number 1.
Gotcha.
I can
Yes.
see a lot of
Also,
Yeah.
like with the companies or corporations that are going to be buying into this, like who are they going to be and what sort of restrictions are there going to be? Because a lot of schools, like I know a lot of Shelby County schools, they don't allow Coke products, and well, they allow Coke products but not soda. So like
It's gotta be like
choose
Dasani and
something.
stuff.
So yeah, and like so are these companies going to be like endemic to like education or not endemic?
I mean, Arnold Palmer or like anything that wasn't a Coke product, because Coke had put so much money into our school.
That's how almost every institution works. They have a contract with either Coke or Pepsi.
Right.
Yeah, and I think this is a really good plan, but I think it needs to be attached with something else because, again, I'm really concerned about the whole throwing money at a problem issue and the lack of caring, because the whole time we've been going through all this is like the biggest issue is that we have parents sending kids to school that don't care about their students. We have teachers who are teaching kids who don't care about their students. We have students who just don't care. You know what I mean? So I feel like if we have the money, and this is a great way to get the money, that's good, but we need something that's gonna demand something of the schools that are receiving this money, because otherwise it's just money with a lost cause.
I think that a valuable use of our brainstorming time would be thinking of ways to combat the lack of impartiality in this plan, and thinking of ways to come up with qualitative evaluations to keep the companies from being partial and just trying to come in, advertise, and get out.
And I mean, I don't think, possible objections is the advertising to young kids, but honestly, in high school and stuff, none of the parents cared that we had a bunch of Coke products at school. Like, they weren't like, Coke is trying to corrupt my children, like, no, they didn't care. They're like, oh, you're getting a good education. So as long as a good education is attached to this advertisement, I feel like it's gonna be the least of their worries.
I think this is a really good approach to like the economic side of the problem, and this is what we do. Like we look at like all the different like facets of a solution. So I think what Carly's getting to is that there also needs to be a lot of like social incentive along like to encourage education. And
Well, that's because this is something that provides a solution to both sides of the problem, where you're getting an incentive and you're also putting money in.
Also, like, for the corporations, in the long run, the more value they place in every school that they advertise in, the more it helps them with the marketing. Because if you see success rates in schools, like, they're gonna be like, oh, we donated money to this school. This is how well that they did because we invested in them and we showed them that they cared. But the thing is I feel like corporations aren't gonna wanna do that work. So I think the easy, fast way to do this is do the work for them, show them the data, show them what they can do to have success rates in these schools, and they'll easily invest. Because it's like, why not invest when we're getting basically free advertising and a new marketing scheme for our business? I mean, a subtle marketing scheme because it's not like gonna be in your next commercial, but you know what I mean? Something you can share with investors in the cities you're in.
I feel like this kind of already happens and companies don't even have to pay to get in.
Yeah.
So why would they start paying now? I mean, Coke already has a contract with certain institutions and certain schools already have Macs.
I mean, hopefully this would be just kind of taking it up a level from what companies can do by not buying it. I mean, this is a way for them to gain access to solid research that they would not normally have at this level of ease of access to, and this degree of getting access to this knowledge.
Remember that the point of the market research is to be able to sell it.
Right.
Right now, Coke and Apple can't sell teaching methods, and they can't sell them to Pepsi, who wants to be in the school down the street. And when Pepsi wants to be in the school down the street that has 8,000 students in it for the next 10 years, Pepsi has to be successful. So when Coke owns that teaching method, or they don't own the teaching method, they own the market research behind it, that's incentive to do more market research and sell it to Pepsi. Right, keep going.
Like next slide or
Next slide.
start brainstorming?
There we go, same thing.
Okay, sorry.
So, yeah, so I mean, what we're gonna do for the brainstorming is we're gonna fine tune what we've already come up with. We're gonna dive back into what we've been talking about, the solutions that we came up with last week. We're gonna talk about what was wrong with what we or what are the kind of the loopholes in what we came up with last week, and how can we fix those. We're gonna have different group leaders for each group, and we're gonna do 20 minutes. And let's see.
Yeah, you covered it.
Yeah, so.
Do you guys want to go first and present for 2 minutes? What we're going to do is our group needs to pay attention to this group so that we can kind of like really analyze what they're going on. But they're going to talk for 2 minutes, and then Ryan's going to talk for 2 minutes, and then we're going to have a quick break and just chill out, maybe think over things. Well, anyways, we're going to have a 5-minute break. During that break, you can just kind of think about all the plans that we are going to go through and like evaluate, and then they're going to go over again 5 minutes and maybe go a little bit more in depth about what their plan is and everything that they've been brainstorming. Ready? Yeah.
So overall, we still like our plan for the corporations to basically enter the schools, but we do realize that it's kind of crazy, but I think that's one of the positives to it. Like, nobody has ever really presented this plan into school systems. So that's one of the pros. Some more pros are, it does bring more money into the schools, and in some cases, this is going to reflect with higher test scores and more money. It could be mutually beneficial to schools and the companies, because obviously companies are making investment off their advertisements, and schools are getting better scores, etc. And the way the program is set up, it makes it beneficial for companies to have a longer lasting relationship and not just come in for a year and leave. Some of the problems we did see were that 5-year-olds and 10-year-olds aren't necessarily immediate consumers. They can't buy Apples, Macs, iPods, etc. There might also be a huge hatred of the plan from parents and lawmakers. Obviously, parents might find a problem with advertisers coming in and seeking to maybe like brainwash their children. But we also saw that companies might use their financial influence on schools to affect policies. Like Sean brought up that Coke has such a Coke brings such great money to some schools that even though they're trying to make healthy lunches and things like that, they can't get rid of Coke machines that have all these sugary products and so on. Am I out of time?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, you'll have 5 minutes after. So.
Yeah, so that's just kind of rough on that one. Okay.
Are we giving like time for questions?
So basically our idea was taking the idea of doing the ambassadors, conducting evaluations and research, and moving this into a 4-phase, and more if we see fit, process. Whereas the first phase is just the ambassadors research, analysis, information gathering, where ambassadors can be both private citizens / bureaucrats or be members of the school board. and they're going to come in, they're going to gather information, evaluate, and determine what schools excel in certain areas and what schools don't. Phase 2 would be the basically like cross-district evaluation and mentoring, where ambassadors or teachers are going across districts, across counties, and talking about what they have noticed has been working for them, what they've implemented that have been very effective at engaging students. Then phase 3 would be where we would have private companies coming in, and they're going to be choosing the schools based on, okay, we see this research that these ambassadors have conducted, and it is a good opportunity for us, a good marketing opportunity for us. So they're going to come, they're going to buy in. School gets the capital from that company, and the school gets capital from that company. They get the market research, and the school can use that capital for whatever funding they see fit. And then after this, fourth phase would be implementing standardized practices based on what was implemented and what worked well.
We thought that a major point that might need to be addressed is we don't want to necessarily tie together all of these good educational reform ideas we have with an idea that is so sort of like inclusive, like get the ball rolling, or like don't sort of thing. So we're thinking it would be prudent in our plan to include our ideas separate from an idea that's wrapped up in the something involving private companies. But that's what would make it, added in at the end, that's what would make it an enticing idea once we make it make sense throughout the whole document, and then you arrive at the end with this enticing new way to go at it to get more money.
Okay, so that's end of 2 minutes.